Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Domenico Chiarello, Cami Travis Groves, and James Lee. I want to ask the question, how do you notice when you're fixing rather than listening? Domenico, can you kick us off?
The first thing that I thought about when I heard this question was the analogy of 2 ears and 1 mouth, that you should be listening twice as much as you should be talking. We brought this up in other conversations, and I think in this with regards to this particular question, that's the issue that has to be addressed: is listening more and talking less, because the person sending this message really doesn't want your help. He or she wants you to listen and just listen. So I let it go to you guys.
Love that. There's a video that I absolutely love. It's called "It's Not About the Nail." And there's a girl saying it's really painful, and there's just this ache, and I don't know what it is. And the guy's there saying, well, maybe if you took the nail out of your forehead. And she's like, no, it's not about the nail. And he's trying to fix it, and she just wants to be listened to. And so often we are rewarded. Our culture supports finding things that need to be fixed, finding ways to save money, finding better ways to do things. So when it comes to interactions, that's kind of our default. And it's so important that we recognize when we're trying to fix, when we haven't actually, like Domenico was saying, listen twice as much as you speak. If you're offering advice without asking permission to offer the advice, which I am guilty of having done for years, it makes the other person feel like they've not been heard and they're not as interesting. But man, as soon as you pare it back or validate what it is they're saying, you say, it sounds like you're feeling X, Y, and Z. The other person just feels so much better and so heard and validated.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You have to repeat things back so that they know that you know, right? When I was thinking about this, Robyn, it sort of occurred to me that we all sort of fall into this habit of thinking about what we're going to say while the other person is still talking. Right? And if you're doing that, then you're definitely in problem-solving mode. And I've also found sometimes that when I'm meeting someone for the first time, I don't always get their name, because I'm thinking about how I'm going to introduce myself. And then we've had a conversation and I still don't know their name. That's something that I need to fix.
I don't think it's necessarily selfish to jump in. I find it is human nature to be like that. I don't think it's always a negative thing. I think it comes out of the pureness of people's hearts that they want to help other people. And so when all of a sudden someone starts talking and they start going down the road, instead of letting them tell the whole story, they want to jump in along the way and say, I can do this, or I can help you with this, or I can do that. So instead of just letting them let it all out, human nature makes us jump into these conversations and try to fix instead of just listen.
In all honesty, sometimes people do need to be interrupted. True.
You're not wrong about that, Jim. You're not wrong. One thing that I do notice for me, and this is outside of the coaching arena, because when I'm working, I'm really good at it. But when I'm outside the coaching arena, I notice that I'm fixing rather than listening if someone starts pushing back and saying, oh, yeah, but. If yeah, but comes out of somebody's mouth, I know, oh, wait a minute, I didn't get the whole story. Let me back up and figure out what they're trying to say. Because if they're pushing back on the solution, it means they're not ready for solution yet.
It's so important to ask permission. And even if it's, oh, I have an idea, and waiting for that response. And then to Jim's point of listening with the intent of understanding instead of listening with the intent to reply.
Domenico, I saw you thinking.
I am thinking, there's been a couple of things that crossed my mind. I recently had a very close friend divulge to me that his health is in a very bad place right now. This was a person that's always been there for me and always listened to me. And once I've had my time to say what I had to say, then he would step in. Now I can tell the difference, because I know that he needs an audience and he has to just let it all out, because nowhere after getting married and having a newborn and then being diagnosed with bad health, it's a really big concern. And so I could just sense right away that he just needs to just let it all out, let all those tears out, let all those thoughts out, let out all those worries out. And even though I want to try to help, I can see that this is a time where he needs to just let it all out, because that's going to be therapeutic for him. And you have to just listen and go, yes, I know, I know, and look at them and give them the body language and the feedback that they know is basically that you're just listening to them and you're going along the story with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's therapeutic too. I mean, people do need to be heard, and maybe they're being heard less, while we're all sort of still in lockup mode.
Mm-hmm. I'm also wondering, and to Cami, to your point, you said, don't give advice without permission, but have you ever asked someone for permission and had them say no? Like, I've never ever said, hey, can I coach you? Or, hey, can I share my thoughts? And had someone say no. You have.
Yes. Yes.
How did that go?
Very respectfully. I could say, this is a beautiful coaching moment, or I have an idea, and someone's like, I just need to vent. And at that point, I know my role is to be the empathetic witness instead of a fixer. So Robyn, to your question, I want to dig a little bit deeper because it is such a good question. Your question was, how do you tell?
How do you notice? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you notice? You can't fix what you don't see. So how would you step in and advise someone to be more mindful of what they're doing as a listener or a fixer?
I think, to your point, it takes observation. And so which is why I said, if someone starts saying, yeah, but that's a flag. Hey, not looking for a solution here. If you end up talking more, and to Domenico's point, that if you're doing more talking than listening, you're probably fixing. But it takes that willingness to be an observer of it. And there is a term for it, from male to female, the mansplaining. And sometimes I just want to say, stop mansplaining to me. Don't tell me how to do my job. And so I think from that point of view, I have the right to say, I'm not looking for advice right now. And I think that we could all be better at that too.
Yeah. As the person who's needing to vent, or the person who feels like they just need to share, because we are so isolated and have been painfully so for the last couple of years, to say, I just need to connect, or I just need to vent, or I just need a listener, and to recognize that about ourselves would be great.
That said, though, if you come to me 3 times in a row complaining about the same thing and you haven't done anything about it, my listening bucket is full. Let's fix it.
Yes.
I think when people,
you can ask, are you ready to do something about it?
Right. Domenico.
I think that, it's obvious, like I said, body language and feedback. Someone who really just needs an audience and needs to stand up on the soapbox and preach will get very agitated if you kind of interrupt them, or they'll say, hey, listen, you know what? I just need a few minutes of your time, and just let me let it all out. Stop interjecting, and stop trying to coach me or stop trying to help me. I just need you to listen for you right now. So I think in a lot of cases, when it gets to a point where someone has the courage to actually say it, they'll kind of like stop and say, hey, let me talk. I need this.
Is this all especially true for parenting?
It's, I think, one of those lessons that if you're a parent of teenagers, you learned the hard way.
I think that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. Jim, what are your thoughts about it? Where do you see it? How do you notice in your life because you are in an advisor role, it's what you do.
Yeah, I know. And I advise in a few different capacities. I kind of agree with Cami. Some people just need to process. Some people are attached or identify with their circumstances. And you do need to have permission to make suggestions, because at some level, this is what they choose to experience, and they're just experiencing that, and you have to let them do that if that's what they want.
That's a good point. Even if you want to fix, sometimes you have to let people make mistakes on their own.
Children.
Well, that is our 10 minutes. So I'm going to cut us off there. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I've enjoyed it immensely. And I hope that we all can get really good at noticing when we're fixing, when we need to be listening. Thanks. I'll talk to you all again soon.
Thanks.